Welcome to Directionally Correct, a People Analytics podcast with Cole and Scott. Today's guest, Doug Shagam, head of People Data and Insights at Johnson & Johnson.
Thanks to our sponsors, Orgnostic. Fast track the insights behind your people data using Orgnostic by connecting all your HR data in one people analytics platform. Quickly uncover the insights you need to measure the success of your people initiatives. Orgnostic is the most innovative people analytics, generative AI, data orchestration, and employee listening tool on the market. To learn more, book a demo at orgnostic.com/directionally correct.
Well, one, you have two varieties. I found the place that will do $20 haircuts, and everywhere else is like, these haircuts are getting expensive. Like, there's a place like $85 for a haircut for a dude.
Like a basic guy haircut is $80.
Generic haircut. And like, like for a guy, like after 3 days, you can't really tell a good haircut from a bad haircut. And after 2 weeks, it really doesn't matter. Right?
Yeah. Well, that's way expensive.
But I found a place over by the university, UW, and it's $20 because I'm a basic bitch, that sort of thing. And it's funny because I'd gone there before, and there's like one guy I didn't want to get, and luckily he walked through, and like someone else was in line to get him. You do like the lineup sort of thing, like you're a prisoner, just kind of get who you get. Anyway, I got this guy I hadn't gotten before, and he spent probably like 5 minutes like using the comb and like just trying to find like, I don't know, the curvature of my head. I don't know, like parting it, and like typically, or some of the best haircuts I've gotten, they've been done in 5 minutes, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, here's what I want, here's sort of thing. He's like, yeah, I got you, no big deal. And he kind of cut it up, and he's like, taking forever. And like the people are like going through the chairs next to me. I'm like, that guy's been like through 3 haircuts. Like, you're still cutting my hair. Like, I'm about to get the best haircut of my life. And then like he's like, whips the cape off. He's like, ha ha. And I was like, this isn't really what I asked for at all. But I'm glad that you're impressed. But I just want to get the fuck out of here.
Like, I mean, it does look pretty good. He did do a good job. But
it's not what we talked about exactly, but he kind of followed a pattern.
So is it like a salon, or is it a barbershop, or is it something else?
No. This is it's a straight up barbershop, and it's old school barbershop. It's actually really neat on the inside. We'll just give them some plugs, like University Barbers by UW campus, something like that. And like on the inside, it's like all mirrors. So it's like really wild sort of experience to be in this like all mirror place. But they have like the Seahawks game on, like way too loud. It's like, I guess because the guy can't hear it, he's like, clipping hair, this sort of thing. But interesting experience. Like overall satisfied, and definitely be a return customer. Just like very
I had
interesting experience.
I had an old barber, and he had made an invention. And so every time I went, he was an old guy, so he didn't remember he told you the story every time we went. So he wanted to tell me about his invention every time I went in. And it was a thing that sucks the hair out after it clips so it doesn't get on the ground. Right?
Like he invented like a vacuum cleaner?
It was literally a vacuum cleaner that he hooked it up to it. And he's like, I've been selling this thing. Have you heard of it? I was like, yeah, every single time I've come in here. You tell me. Like, and the other thing is, why are you trying to sell it to me? If I buy it and I take it home, I'm not going to use you anymore.
Do you remember like the Flowbee? Or was it actually like a vacuum cleaner and a hair attachment that like cut your hair at the same time?
I mean, it was a real vacuum. I think this is a little bit more low tech than a Flowbee. I know what you're talking about, though. Like, it was effective, though. I'll give him that. You didn't leave itchy at all.
That is a real pain.
Yeah.
Like double entendre there. I mean, like it is a real pain to like walk around like, God damn.
It's like, especially the back of the neck, and it gets down the back of your shirt, and you're like, you itch the rest of the day. It's like, this is terrible.
Or if you're like me, you go home and like lay down in your bed. Now you just like get itchy all night.
Yeah. Oh man, that's the worst.
I would learn how to cut hair just to save the $20-$30 a month.
Well, that's what we do now. And it's not good looking, but like you said, 2 weeks later, nobody can tell the difference.
I would say for a kid, like worst case scenario, you just like give them a buzz cut and like be like, go on with your life. No one cares. This sort of thing.
Especially in the summertime, man. A buzz cut in the summertime saves you on so much heat. Like your
Oh yeah.
body, I don't know if you feel it, but like I feel like my hair keeps in so much heat in my head. Having a buzz cut feels the best in the summer.
Uh, that's wild that your hair is insulating your little dome there.
Yeah. I think it's just I sweat a lot through my hair. I don't know.
I appreciate a good buzz cut. Like I don't know if I actually look good in it, but man, it feels right.
Oh, when you're a kid, it's like who cares, you know?
Well, hell, I mean, like I had one during COVID. During
You
COVID, I
did?
had probably like the longest and shortest hair of my life, just because like I was like, I'm just gonna cut my hair. Like, remember the early stages
Yeah.
where nothing was open?
Yeah,
So
I
like
remember.
I had a pair of clippers and like shit was out of control. So here we go in the bathroom, give yourself a haircut, leave like a little
Yeah. You're not sure.
higher strip than other areas, this sort of thing. Look insane.
I feel like the buzz cut, you're either, you know, in a desperation mode, you're a neo-Nazi, or you're about to kill yourself. Like one of those things is going on.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a signal of problems. It's kind of like a
Yeah.
upside down flag in some respects. You know, it's like things are not going right in some
Like
well.
not sure what signals are being sent here. Oh man.
It's like someone with like aggressive face piercings or something like that. You're like, I don't know what you going on in your life, but there's a lot going on here.
Yeah, it's like you have an excessive need for holes. You just want some holes in your body.
I will say that I went on a date with a girl that had like just came from a haircut. She had like hair all over her shoulders and shit. I was like,
Mhm.
this ain't gonna work well. This is bad.
That's kind of nasty.
It was so nasty. Nice
Yeah. I
person.
was like, I mean, I'm pretty like flexible when it comes to like if somebody's got a good personality and we're vibing and all that, like if we were on like a date, but you're literally like covered in hair.
Yeah, it literally.
Like
Yeah.
I'm that's not a good thing. No. I think I'm gonna have to say no to this.
Oh man, have you ever gotten like a high end haircut when he's like $85 deals?
No, I think so. That's why I asked the salon question
Yeah, yeah.
because I feel like a salon is like, oh yeah, you got to pay extra. A barbershop, if they're charging you more than $40, they need to change their name because they're not a barbershop anymore.
I like barbershop culture. In Ruston, it felt like everywhere would have like a straight razor, and they'd finish you off with a straight razor.
That's true. I mean, I guess that's not. I guess that's not a thing everywhere.
I have not seen that other places.
Okay. What's up, Doug? How you doing, man?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Good. We got some good barbershop talk going on here.
I was just thinking, I love a straight razor shave.
Okay.
It's one of like the best joys in life, I think.
It
Honest.
doesn't feel so decadent, right? Like you're living right.
When I used to years like early career, spend some time working in the Wall Street area. There used to be this place where you would go, and it wasn't just for men, but it certainly specialized in men. You had this huge like lounge chair. You'd get a straight razor shave,
Oh yeah.
you'd get your haircut, you'd get a manicure for like $40 or something like that. And I'd be like, dude, every 2 weeks I'm going. This is the best treatment ever.
Is this like a mafia hangout? I mean, this sounds.
No, it was legit. Well, I shouldn't know. Maybe for an extra, I think, couple of bucks, they gave you a beer. Like it was a great hang. So
Well, I was actually thinking about you earlier this week because I was watching the movie. Well, I'm not going to say the name of it. I want to guess. I think I know what your favorite movie is, and because you were
How would you know
a
this?
a drums player at Juilliard, and I was watching the movie Whiplash. Is that your favorite movie?
it is, and there's a whole lot of it that's true.
Is
That is
is
very
it a
true.
biography of your life?
I have had more. Um, let's see, erasers, drumsticks, things thrown at me. I've had, oh yeah, I've had a conductor take off his shoes and start banging them together, literally, next to my ear to keep the beat going.
Oh wow!
Uh, Oh yeah, it's a real pleasure.
Well, like I mean, I haven't seen this Whiplash movie. Like, what are we talking about? Like timpani drums or like?
He ends up playing the drum set. Most people start out learning just one, usually the snare drum, and then they move to the bass drum, and then sometimes people will play the other percussive instruments like a xylophone, a timpani, or other things. And yeah, I could do it all. But I went to school for
Yeah.
quite a while to do some of that stuff. But yeah, Whiplash. And by the way, amazing song choices in
Yeah.
there.
It was
Some
really
of my
good. It's good music. I mean, straight up. But like in the movie, Scott, so the the main character is like a drummer, and then there's this conductor guy who's just a complete like psychopath who's
yeah.
like teaching him how to like play the drums. And it's just a really good movie. You should check it out sometime.
You
Like,
you really should. It is phenomenal. It truly is a phenomenal movie. It won a whole bunch of awards,
It
right?
did
I
when it
don't.
first came out. It was like I don't know if it won an Oscar or not, but it was like one of the best films that year.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, I'm not gonna pull up Wikipedia, but like I know it won a whole bunch of awards, and uh, like I don't know, it certainly re-sparked my like, oh, I remember this, and I lived this a long time, and it was
Yeah.
fun. I mean, sure, you got beaten up, but you also,
that's how
you,
you know we had a good time, right? Like,
yeah, like come
yeah.
on, everybody pays attention to the drummer. That's how I got started, right? I mean, I watched a guy, and there are a bunch at the time of women who only had who were all watching him, and I'm like, dude, I can do that. Why not, right? I didn't
See,
know any better.
I always felt like
Well,
the drummers were the crazy guys. Are you a crazy guy, Doug?
I like to have fun. I definitely like to have fun. Let's just say that the reason I'm not Dr. Shagam is my BAC was a bit higher than my GPA.
Ah,
Yeah.
I was a drummer in a punk band, Doug, and like I never had a lesson, and it probably goes to show you like how good the
Do
skill
you
set
need that
was.
in a punk band?
Not really, but I loved it because like you kind of had like something to hide behind. Like you were up there, but you had like this like protective drum kit around you. In my case, like a 4 piece.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have, was it like special? Did you just have like a snare, a bass, a tom?
It was a Tama Art Star, and I had a bass, a single tom, and a floor tom, two
Mhm.
crashes, and a ride, and
Nice.
of course a hi hat.
Well, yeah, of course.
This is a question for me to know how hardcore you were, Scott. Did you have a double bass pedal?
I bought a double bass pedal, but never figured out how to actually do it. I did
Oh,
never
Okay.
it's
worked out the
easy. It's easy.
the actual
Well,
coordination never came to me.
we'll have to have an offline lesson on how to use
Let's do it.
a double bass pedal, or sometimes they have the ones that I prefer, which is you still use the double bass pedal, but only have one bass drum. So you can get the benefit of having the double bass sound, and you can still keep your hats closed.
I
Or
mean, I think that's what John Bonham had, right? Or actually, he had two. I guess it depends on which concert you're looking at.
Yeah.
exactly.
But I will say the first intro to Good Times, Bad Times, first Led Zeppelin song, first album. Listen to like the first 30 seconds and just listen to the bass drums. You're like, oh my god, this guy's on a different planet.
Oh,
Different planet.
completely. I was in the seventh grade, I think, maybe eighth. I don't know. I was a kid, 14, 15 years old. I got invited with a buddy of mine. He's like, "Hey, why don't we go to this Battle of the Beats competition?" And I'm like, "Sure, why don't we?" I have like a year of experience doing this, and everybody had to play the same song. I'd never heard of it before. A song called "Rosanna" by Toto.
Rosanna,
Yeah,
Rosanna.
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, little did I know that the drum part by Jeff Porcaro was one of the hardest beats to actually play. It's super. It's some people very incredibly complicated. It's not nearly as hard when you break it down. But I'd never heard of it before. I'm not a young guy, so you're looking at two dudes who were holding that yellow Walkman, one earbud in one ear, one earbud in the other person's
Yeah.
ear. And I won a Yamaha recording custom drum set.
Look at
There you
Because
go.
Look at you.
That's some
yeah,
high-end stuff.
it was fun. It was great. It was a great time. But
Well, were you up in Boston this week?
I don't know how they let me on campus. They must have.
What campus?
I was at MIT presenting on some of the research work that we did that they wrote a research paper on for their CISR, the Center for Innovation and Scientific Research stuff. Again, I don't know if they just check like available credit that you have on your credit cards or
Hey, let anybody up in here.
Yeah.
because clearly it's not GPA or diplomas.
Yeah. what was the research about?
So it was how we used NLP and machine learning to be able to look at skills passively at scale.
Interesting.
And this is a board that really focuses on how to use data as an asset and how to create value from that data.
So wait, you're deriving skills from what kind of data?
So think of everything that would be within an employee's footprint. So when I say an employee's footprint, think about your HRIS workday as an example. You have an annual performance review, right? Hopefully you're tracking things like start date, end date, promotions, lateral moves, all those types of events. Those go in there. Think about if you're a programmer or you're involved in data science, you probably have a GitHub repository or some version thereof, right? We look at assessment data that is used throughout somebody's life cycle, training, recognition, and reward data. So all these different types of data sets that we look at, and especially performance reviews where you have an opportunity to shine with what you have contributed. And of course, your manager has reinforced, oh yeah, you did this, or no, not so much. So that went really well because from a, first of all, employee transparency standpoint, everybody knew what they were using. So getting buy-in, and then the promotion of it was really focused on letting people understand the why. And the why was, we want to know and let everybody know what we're playing for.
What are we playing for?
These 13 capability areas, these 55 skills.
Okay.
And what we said, and those came from long range financial plans, strategic plans. And what we offered up first and most importantly was, look, we're only going to provide this to you. You will only see this data. You have a chance to see how you rate yourself and how an algorithm rates yourself, how an algorithm rates you. And
do you find big deltas between the two?
Very close initially. We look at agreement score, which is plus or minus one out of a 5-point scale. And I mean, social science, right? 60-70%, pretty good. We were right there.
Self ratings are notoriously the least reliable type of ratings. That's why I asked. And so I was wondering, you probably get all the different kinds of bias that goes on there, but are people, I guess, who do you trust? Like, do you trust the algorithmic ratings more or the self ratings more?
The algorithmic ratings is what we go for, and that's what we compare against. And we find the largest bias is actually with manager, or we found was with manager rating. And that was primarily because of, honestly, the fact that many managers don't necessarily have as much information about their employees or the technical depth, per se, that some of their employees had.
Yeah, I mean, they have limited exposure to what they're asking their employees to do as well. It's like kind of a one-way conversation in a lot of circumstances, right? So they have that sort of aspect. I mean, with that said, like what kind of skills are most important to performing the job? Obviously, we have a million different jobs and a million different contexts, this sort of thing. But are there some like core skills that you're finding in the data that are most predictive of future success?
It's typing, isn't it? It's definitely typing.
I'd be lying if I said it wasn't typing. Typing is
Typing
huge.
skills.
Typing, you have to be
Cursive.
able to successfully.
Keeping a beat.
You, you have to be able to navigate Teams, Slack, and text messaging all at the same time.
Well, we all know multitasking isn't real, though.
Oh god.
Yeah.
It's not? I had no idea. I
Okay.
had no idea. Wow,
Yeah.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
We also found that fun things.
Is that a real skill? Like being able to manage all these different communication mediums?
No.
Okay, good. My world makes sense again.
I was riffing off of typing. So, but that is important. No question about it.
I feel inundated by all these different sources, and people are like, "Well, that's Slack." You was like, I haven't checked into Slack in like 2 days. Like, well, like I emailed you. Like, oh god damn, now I gotta look at that.
Yeah, I often feel like, oh, sent you. People will, oh, I sent you a Teams message. Oh, I should have checked Teams. I was just looking at Outlook.
Wait, have you guys done any research along those lines around like productivity and the amount of distractions that go into it and like focus time or anything like that?
So we're just starting out on that journey. In fact,
Really?
we deployed Viva Insights, both at the individual and manager, which provides aggregate views. And besides knowing how much time I spend during Teams meetings, not necessarily doing work just focused on that meeting, but doing other things, despite the fact that, of course, I would never multitask during a meeting. What we're starting to see is some anecdotal evidence, but we need more. We need to be able to explore. We need to be able to see, and obviously, patterns are what matters. So that's what we're starting to see, and what kind of outcomes, especially as project teams start evolving more and more, rather than just I'm a part of this organization. As project teams start to evolve, how does that play into all of this?
Yeah, I mean, like as we move into this sort of like further into this digital future, these sort of like technical skills feel like they're going away, especially in the same way that like crystallized intelligence is going away, or the need for it. And I think we're going to have like two sort of like fungible skill sets that are really important moving forward. Like one is this idea that you need to be able to brainstorm and collaborate with others, generate ideas, because like even like Gen AI can only do so much with information that's put into it. The other is like the ability to sell ideas, which is a different skill set, but going to be like wildly important.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. If you are not a successful storyteller and being able to tell a compelling message, you're going to fail automatically. Doesn't matter if you have all the brains, you have the greatest ideas, but if you can't communicate them effectively, be able to persuade, and I would even argue be able to use the word sell, but I would say, drive consensus, get everybody to see the same view of what's in it. The old radio station with them, what's in it for me, value case, right? Like that sort of, everybody's got that radio station programmed in, trust me.
Sure.
That's super critical, and you've got to have some technical know-how, because you got to know your area, you got to know your subject, right? But I would argue less so on the technical side in many cases, and more so on that other side, that being able to be a great storyteller, being able to tell a compelling message and getting that point across. So you've got that consensus, you've got that buy-in and support.
Well, Scott, I actually want to come back to you. Why? Because basically what you said was like collaborating and selling.
Mm-hmm.
Why those two things? Why not other things? And what kind of took you to that conclusion? Just out of curiosity.
So obviously we have new generative AI that can do a lot of those
Mhm.
sort of technical tasks for you. You can write code, this sort of thing. Doug does bring up a good point of you do need like technical expertise, say like business, industry specific
Yep.
knowledge or company specific
Company
knowledge,
specific. Yeah.
this sort of thing. But as we move more into sort of like a network society, networked organizational structures, Gen AI can only do so much, and it can only produce
Mhm.
insights from its training models. Where I think the real power of humans is being able to connect the dots outside of those training models, or get anecdotes from people in real time and be able to work that into their own sort of mm, I don't know ideas and
Yeah.
how to move forward and evolve, etc. I feel like I'm rambling now,
No.
but essentially, you need to be able to brainstorm these sort of ideas. And to Doug's point, also, somebody needs to be able to influence and sell those ideas. It's just one
Yeah.
thing to have an idea; it's another thing to
Okay.
actually sell them.
I
Yeah,
no, I get it. Well, it was interesting because I texted you something earlier this week, and I should have sent it to you, Doug, too. That there was this research that came out that showed that generative AI can't extrapolate beyond its training data. Because one of the things we had talked about before on the
yeah,
podcast is like, can generative AI create a truly new idea beyond just what has already been ideas that have already been had in the past? And I think it was researchers from Google. I'll have to like find the link that I sent. I'll put it in the show notes. But basically found that at least upon the evidence that they had looked at, that generative AI actually can't. It can't. It can't go beyond that. And so I think that's a really fundamental piece of data that we've been needing ever since this new revolution that's occurred. So that was really interesting.
that is really interesting. I mean, it has all sorts of implications because you look at Gen AI output and you think like, "Oh my god, like this thing is thinking," and clearly it's not.
When it actually gets to your point you were making, Scott, about okay, well then we have to have humans collaborating to generate ideas and then selling those ideas. So it's absolutely related.
And could I get a little bit of shout out that Gen AI is super cool and has tremendous potential, but it can't solve everything today.
Look at
Mhm.
that. A wet towel Doug coming out. Love it, man. Tell us more.
Right? I mean, look,
Preach.
I'm a huge fan of Gen AI. I'm a huge fan of tech in general. I mean, it's part of my it's a
Yeah.
passion, right? But like, I think we have some folks in different parts of not just an organization, but even classes that I teach that are like, oh, I can have Gen AI do this. And I'm like, well,
You
sort of,
can.
kind of,
Yeah.
but do you want to learn anything? Right? Like, sure, it could write, assignment number 2, but then again, maybe you want to learn that for future use or things like, you know, there's going to be Chat GPT 5 and 6 and 7 and
Yeah.
8. It's going to get better. It's going to constantly improve. And yeah, it's good, but it's always based on what both of you already mentioned, right? What it has learned fundamentally, right? And sort of like Wikipedia in some cases, right? The sources are always as good as they are. We hope they were to be very, very good sources. It can produce some outstanding results, but it can't necessarily solve world hunger. It can't
Mhm.
necessarily do some things that people have imaginative ideas upon just yet.
Yeah, it's definitely not good at making sandwiches to solve that world hunger. It's notoriously bad. I am curious, Doug. So you mentioned your students. Are you teaching right now?
I do. So I'm tremendously privileged. I teach at Columbia University, at NYU, and at Lehigh University. I teach both people analytics and strategic workforce planning.
Well, I mean, as this esteemed professor that you are, how do you incorporate Gen AI into like the curriculum? Because kids are going to use it, and it is a tool. To your point earlier, it's not the only tool, and you do have some erosion of skills on the back end by using it. How do you approach it?
We do, and I should point out I am far from an esteemed professor. But thank you. I appreciate the at least notion thereof. So it's a pretty simple approach right now, candidly. It's one of we ask that students, if they use generative AI, that they source that and they note it. And we also make sure that during courses, during classes, during exercises, that there is no chat GPT. We'll have a breakout for 20 minutes and
Yeah.
we'll have students actually practice things like, oh, chi-square, where here's the problem, right? Here's the data, here's the formula. Now we'll give you the formula in Excel. We're not going to make you use R. We'll make it simple for you, right? But you can't just throw that into ChatGPT with the right prompts and get the answer.
I got a question related to this. Hold on. When's the last time either of you guys used a chi-square out in the wild?
Within the year.
Real okay. I'll be
Yeah,
honest with you. I'm making a confession here. Never used one in the wild. Not
that's
even once.
fair. That's fair. It's a very specialized sort of analysis, um, specifically related to survival curves. I
Yeah.
had to break one out for survival curves.
Well, yeah, I guess like in like SEM models, you have like a chi-square as an output. I just meant like a literally there's 4 boxes and you did a chi-square to see if there was differences between the 4 boxes.
I've never been like, how many different mild sauces did I get from Taco Bell versus hot sauces?
Yeah,
You know?
that's
Versus
a good
Diablo.
one. Yeah, that's a good one. Maybe I could use that in class. I was going to say, other than class, yeah, not so much. But I'm thinking that may be a good option versus
Oh
the
yeah.
more traditional one we have to use from the EOC. So I like that. That's a much better option. Plus, I'm sure students are passing that one around anyway. So.
Look for a bunch of Columbia students coming out and understand how to apply the chi-square to Taco Bell sauces in the near future, everyone.
It's coming. Get
Well,
ready.
I had this strange experience the other day because I got invited to be a guest speaker at Columbia's course, and Doug wasn't
Really?
the professor, and then like I'm looking around in the Zoom, and it's like, Doug, what are you doing here, man? I thought he was one of the students, and it's like, oh no, I'm just in here like because I help out with the Columbia program. I was like, oh okay, I was like, that's amazing.
Yeah, I was an associate in that course, so a different lecturer was
Yeah.
presenting.
Well,
I
let's give
do
her a shout out. Michael Moon,
Michael
another
Moon.
prominent
Yeah,
people analytics person who I've interviewed in the past. She's amazing. Love her. She's
I
awesome.
was. She's fantastic. She's great. Think super highly of Michael, and like you said, Cole, she's very well known, very well liked in the fields as well. No question about it. But yeah, that's when we use it, right? I mean, that's what it was. But it was pretty funny. Cole's like, Doug,
Like, what are you
are
doing
you
here?
auditing this class? Like,
Yeah.
for reason? No, no. I'm here to answer questions and help students who have trouble figuring out some like basic concepts. And they call this at Columbia. They some students consider this the organic chemistry of their master's degree in human
Really?
capital management. I can't make that up. Can't
Okay.
make that up. It's not. I've taken organic chemistry. It's not. Actually, I've taken it twice. It's not.
Well, I mean, like you're invited to these universities to talk and MIT, et cetera. Like, how do you keep up with things? I mean, there's so much to keep up with.
Yeah, seriously.
It's about the relation. It goes back to those relationships, right? It goes back to being able to chat with great leaders, to chat with friends, to be able
Yeah.
to it's more than just a LinkedIn post that will get you knowledge, because of course you can go there. The conferences are okay, right? But it's more about the hallway conversations, keeping up with things. It's that stuff that always excites me, intrigues me, and I love getting the random, message of, hey, why don't we connect for 30 minutes? Those are my favorites.
I think this is Cole's superpower. Absolutely. Like he meets with so many people and just gets exposed to so much people analytics knowledge. It's wildly impressive.
Yeah, people assume that like I have like secret wisdom and knowledge. I was like, nah, man. I just hear people complain all the time.
Wait, you don't have all this super secret knowledge?
I mean, yes, I do.
That's why I'm here. Yeah.
Little Freudian slip there for a second. I apologize. Well, speaking of like secret knowledge, it's actually how we kind of kicked this whole thing off, Doug, is you had made a post on LinkedIn about quality of hire a while back, and then we got into this whole like circle talking about it. Do you want to talk about quality of hire at all?
Yeah, sure. So I did a little bit of planning before this. 10 months ago, you know, we were at a point of inflection, right? Everybody's focused on, in the past, on what? They're focused on retention. Oh my goodness, right? The
Hmm.
the the great retention, the well, you can fill in the blank. There's so many variations on that theme. But what we realized was, well, that's in the past. What's coming next, right?
Ooh,
And
yeah.
you've probably heard, right, an expression. It's mostly attributed to um, to someone who to Warren Buffett, who actually didn't say this. It was actually somebody else who told Warren this about hogs get slaughtered if they're not paying attention to what if they get too greedy.
Pigs get fed, hogs get slaughtered.
Exactly, right? And that's in investments. But what we
Yeah.
realized was, you know, there's going to be a time when we really need to double down on talent and
Hmm.
how we think about talent acquisition as an organization. Now, I don't know about any of you guys, but I have never had like a seamless, perfect, amazing talent acquisition journey. Have you?
I mean, we've
What
talked
do you
about
mean
it a
by that?
bunch. Like, they're not. It's not fun to go through talent acquisition, generally speaking.
I mean, from how you get sourced to the
Oh,
interview
oh.
process, through assessments, through, you know, different types of, obviously, the interviews, through the eventual clear to hire, here's your start date. And oh, by the way, on your starting date, your manager's there, your laptop's there, everything's there. You have like a welcome to fill in the blank company
Hmm.
lined up. Maybe you have a buddy, all that kind of stuff. Have you ever had that before?
It's rare, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, usually
'Cause-
people are saying like, "Oh, bear with us. We're getting this figured out. Sorry,
we'll
your
get
experience is terrible, but we'll figure it out next time," kind of
we'll
thing.
get you a laptop in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I was going to say, right? Yeah. And has it ever happened in like less time than a couple of weeks at a minimum?
From initial
From
approach, right?
initial,
Oh
yeah.
no,
No,
absolutely
it's
not.
never fast.
Yeah. So now I want you to think about a big
I
bureaucratic.
feel like you're leading us somewhere, Doug. Where
Yeah,
are you
yeah,
leading
we're
us?
going down the road.
Yeah, J&J is a storied company, right? 150 years plus in operation, and we realize like if we're going to be competitive, we've got to change things, right? We've got to break down policies. We've got to break down processes. We've got to break down ways of working, and you know what? We got to reevaluate tech. And we've got to take it from the lens of three areas. From a recruiter standpoint, we've got to take it from a candidate standpoint, and from a hiring manager standpoint. That's really what matters. And to overuse a already overused phrase, understand the moments that matter through journey mapping exercises and really start to focus critically there. And that's what a big shift has been for us. And, it started out, as Cole mentioned, 10 months ago by me asking a simple question on LinkedIn that, I thought wisdom of the crowds, right? I'd have brilliant people answering this question for me.
Yeah, I even wrote a whole article about your question.
He did, and I still have that, by the way. How do you, well, a link to it. How do you measure quality of hire?
Yep.
And, well, let's disregard the folks, what are you trying to get at? Why does it matter to you? Because, well, come on. We all know quality of hire really does matter, right? But understanding so much more than just some basic things like, well, do people stay? Do people get promoted more faster than others? Do people tend to become those real, when you think of an organizational network analysis, right? Do they really become those central points of contact over time where they're, as I will frequently use the phrase, the mayor, right? They have all this information, they can distribute it, and they're the go-to people, right? And we also want to look at it in different areas, right? Is it different across 3,000 plus jobs, 30,000 different positions? Is it so different in cohorts? If I started in 1 year, what if I have a manager who has a different or lower performance rating than a manager who has higher, or a larger span of control or a smaller span of control? So 67 comments later, Cole was great. He offered up his knowledge, his paper, and quality time with me, which hopefully was well spent. And we got to a place where we were able to start using this. And it's still a work in progress. It's about an index, and it's using things that are cohort based, that include continuous feedback, that include things like basic new hire failure rate, and other factors like performance assessment and things like that, but also more continuous feedback. One of my favorite questions, and I know we'll get to this at some point, around around our NPS. We changed NPS that goes out to hiring managers and that goes out to our candidates, but for hiring managers was, did you raise the bar on talent by hiring?
Bar raisers, yeah.
Right? And then we don't just think about asking that one question to a hiring manager 2 weeks after they join, but what happens a year from now? And you ask the interview panel that same question. What is that like? Right? Do they feel like they made
that's
a great?
interesting. Like doing like a after action review. It's like, tell us about this score where you rated so and so. That's funny. I like that.
It's like
Yeah,
interviewing the coach after a football game. It's like, what were you thinking, you insane person?
right. I mean, I can't break out the X's and O's and whiteboard, right? But that'd be kind of fun, right? Like that kind of stuff, because this is, I think Cole well said, right? That expected value, right, and the actual value, right? And how do we get there? And there's so many different data points that you can use. And we're a big organization. Some people don't even have computers or have laptops to get data in. Some,
They don't have those typing skills, that we were looking at earlier.
They don't. They do have a phone, but they do have a phone, so they can use thumbs, or at least as my kids would say, "Wow, use your thumbs. Can't you use other fingers too?"
God, Dad.
I
Jeez.
know. I'm a boomer to them, but
Well, I mean, if you want some expected value, you want to join us in the confusion matrix?
always a pleasure.
The confusion matrix.
Always. Okay. Cole really loved this last week, so we'll see how this goes with you, Doug. We have one real research article and two fake ones, as described by Gen AI. And your task is to identify the real one, okay?
Okay.
Pretty simple rules. Okay, so here you go. The first one is golf courses and residential home prices, an empirical examination. This is from the Journal of Property Economics and researchers from the San Diego State University. So, golf courses and residential home prices.
Okay.
Article 2 is the Green Conundrum, paradoxes in putting green design in neighborhood ecosystems. This is Journal of Recreational Ecology from Cornell, researchers at Cornell. And finally, 4, the impact on errant golf balls on suburban home integrity and insurance prices from the International Journal of Sports-Related Finance and Insurance. This is out of Cal, Berkeley. So we got golf courses and residential home prices. We got putting greens and their impact on neighborhood ecosystems, and errant golf balls and insurance policies.
Oh, I know the answer. I know
What
it, but I'm
say
going to let Doug
you?
go first. Doug's got to go.
All right. I'm going to be clear here. I'm going 2 is false. Putting greens.
Putting greens?
Putting greens is
No.
for sure false, but what about 1 or 3? You got to make a choice, Doug.
Well, I could see golf balls and as being legit. I could see that, but I think it's probably a sponsored study, which I would tend to avoid. So I'm thinking it's going to be those. Granted, I'm biased. I have a home on a golf course, but I'm going to go with choice number 1.
Going number 1?
Oh, it's got to be number 3. It has to be number 3.
Okay, here I will.
Should have stuck with my original.
Should have stuck. Okay, here's the actual one.
Oh, let me put it up. Oh, I was wrong.
Is golf courses and residential home prices. It's been a few days since I actually read this, but essentially they matched home sales on golf courses through some sort of algorithm, and then found that golf courses add 7.6% to the property value. There you go, Doug. So well done.
Oh, well done
Thank
on
you.
your investment.
Well done.
Well, I hope so, because there's not much more land left. So I'm
Have
hoping.
you ever like gone out in the yard and like pretended like a golf ball hit you just to mess with golfers? Anything like that?
Oh, we've had so much fun. So my family's grown up on golf courses. We've lived in Florida on and off for quite some time. So I can't tell you the number of golf balls we have when people, just because people are like, I don't know where my golf ball is. And it's usually because one of my kids already grabbed it and took it away. So that's one fun thing that we like to do. We yell for them, right? Even though it may not even come in our direction, just for the sake of watching them realize, oh my God, I could have hit somebody. So we've done that before as well. And I can neither confirm nor deny that I may step outside early in the mornings and play a couple of holes before the day begins for free.
Oh, heck yes.
Just to,
Well, you gotta do quality control. Quality control, right?
Ooh, I like that. Ooh,
Yeah.
I'm going to start using that now. Thank you. Yeah, I'm doing QC. Yeah, I like
You just gotta
that.
take some divots to make sure the integrity of the grass is appropriate that morning.
I like that.
You're testing the skills of the groundskeeper.
Yeah.
And the overall management.
Overall management. Yeah, I love that. I will say we've had some fun. We did blame at one point for my little girl wants to play golf at Stanford. She's a super.
Damn.
Yeah,
Heard Tiger
she's good.
Woods.
She's
Tiger
she's
Woods.
good. Yeah, she's very good. Thank you. I'm like, just get a degree.
When
The
Stanford consistently has, I think, the top female golf team, so that's definitely a big goal.
They do they have been amazing, but I'm also like, just get a degree in computer science too, please, while you're there.
I
Like,
don't know, man. If you get like high end golf, that's a
yeah,
rocket ship to Mars.
it is. It is. I just, I
You
don't
need
know.
something to lean back on, right?
Yeah, I mean, computer science, Stanford,
Pragmatic,
while you're
Doug.
there, right? Like, I don't know, maybe you can fit it in your schedule. Little tutoring extra. I'm not sure. We could work it out, right? I don't know. But yeah, so that's what she wants to do. So she's a fun player to play with, and she kicks my butt every time. Like she's like, "You suck,"
Yeah.
and I'm like, "You're 15. Are you allowed to say those things?" Right? And
Like I gotta play at 4 in the morning out here. The sun's not even up.
exactly. But it's all in good fun, and we've always enjoyed. In fact, she's great. She was playing, and she claimed that one of the tee boxes, it was her lining up, accidentally broke off the end of her shaft of her club.
Oh yeah. Tee boxes have a way of doing that sometimes.
She's a
You,
turf monster.
you
Yeah.
would think, right? So they replaced the whole thing, and I was completely shocked by that. So,
Well,
okay, cool.
well, I'm definitely coming to crash your place for the Players Championship next year, Doug. But
You've got a
would
spot.
you like to join us in the nerdery?
Let's do it.
The nerdery. Let's do some nerdery. Well, along the lines of kind of some of the things you were mentioning about talent acquisition and like the moments that matter and everything. The first article we had um, is about cyber vetting, and this is a part of the talent acquisition process. I don't know, Scott. Do you want to take us through this?
Yeah, absolutely. So we all know what cyber vetting is. So essentially, seeing what people's online personas might say about them, and then kind of using your Ouija board to divine if they are going to be a good fit for the organization. The article says that 43 to 70% of employers do it. For candidates, it could cause anxiety about their online image, and for hiring agents, like, is it really an accurate reflection of a candidate's overall skill? Boy, there's a lot to cover here in terms
What
of.
I want like the last point about, is it an accurate reflection of a candidate? What are your guys' perspectives on this? Because I think this is the crux of the issue.
So first, let me say that from a policy standpoint at J&J, this is not something that we would
Yeah.
Okay,
allow or
well, that's
anything
good to
like that.
know.
Let me just start by saying that. But secondarily, my personal opinion to this is what you do online in your Facebook, Instagram, I don't even know them all, TikTok, fill in the blank, right? That's your life. And I mean, my mother has endorsed me for Python. I'm pretty sure she thinks right now that I'm working on the anti-venom at our Innovative Medicines, which is our old pharma group, right? She has no idea what Python is.
Doug
No,
loves snakes. He loves
yeah, right.
snakes.
That's what she thinks right now. Like, oh wow, he loves snakes and he's working with venomous snakes. Should I be dangerous? Should I be worried? And first, they're not venomous, and second of all, it has nothing to do with that stuff, right? So, love my mom, but I have to sort of translate things. And what we put in our professional or is our personal lives, I don't think should be vetted at all. I personally feel very strongly against that because people do all sorts of things and for different reasons,
Yeah.
and It's
It's
their
it's
choice.
definitely it's a curated collection of things that you're putting out to the world, right? So if the question is like, are organizations getting an accurate representation through their own filter of that person? No, because it's not an accurate representation of that person to begin with.
Exactly. Right. I mean, I think we all probably know people who only put the best versions of
Oh yeah,
themselves, right, on this stuff.
Yeah.
I take a selfie every Thursday, post
Yeah,
it.
there you go.
I only pick the best one though, right?
Yeah, Instagrams like food porn, right? That's their entire collection is food porn, right? I'm not sure how that's going to help in other than if you're hiring a photographer, but like seriously, is that really needed?
Then you get like sort of like the weird like mezzo level where like say a person doesn't have like an online presence. Is that a red flag to an organization? Like, no, now we don't even, this person is just secretive.
Well, what you really have to have is your name has to be like Joe Smith, and then that nobody's ever going to be able to find you online because there's so many Joe Smiths.
Joe Smith, 4,397, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's me. Okay, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like overall, a bad idea. Is there some value to it for an organization? Like, say, someone has wild things out there.
Yeah, maybe like risk mitigation. Yeah, that's probably a good point. If they have a manifesto, we probably don't need one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when you've got people who write, two paragraphs all about themselves, that I'm sure is largely based in generative AI or professional resume writing, like that may be something where you're like, seriously, is that truly needed? Because you've got 6 more scrolls to do to figure out what it is about you. So
It is a bit like graphology in the sense like the beauty's in the eye of the beholder. But there are instances like you bring up Doug. Like if you had like a candidate and you took him to like a restaurant and like they were really rude to the staff or like they just like struggled with like a basic decision whether they want like sparkling or stilled water. They like kept everyone waiting. You might be like, I don't know if I can work with this person. Like this is a long time for to make this decision. Like what are you gonna do with an actual decision?
I will say
I'm not saying it's
traveling.
good science. It's not good science, but I'm saying.
I will say traveling with colleagues is probably the best, what I found personally to be the best indicator of, wow, can I actually work with this person like
Yeah.
regularly? Because, are you able to just realize, you know what? If I could be 5 minutes and stop at a
Yeah.
Starbucks.
Do
So,
you check a bag? Do you use
yeah,
4 wheels
Oh
or 2
yeah.
wheels on your luggage? I know we've gone into this before,
right,
Scott.
exactly, right? Like, did you upgrade using points or do you already have the status, right? Like these kinds of things are to me important, right? Are you going to prioritize,
I love this. I love this. The airport is the great equalizer because it puts just enough cognitive load on you that like your true personality has to come out.
having come in from Boston last night, I was laughing. You had people lining up in row one, right? So this is the line one.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Everybody
yeah,
is
yeah.
in first class. It had to be 16 plus deep. And I'm like, for a free glass of water or Diet Coke, are you that excited to get on the airplane? They're going to find you a spot for your bag. Don't worry. Come on now. Seriously. Just relax. Take it easy. Have a seat. Listen to some music. Read a book.
Oh wait, are you talking about people that should not be in the first class line, but like they're like you're boarding group 8? It's like there's no you have no reason to be clogging up this area.
Oh, well, that's a special group too. That's a whole
Yeah,
other
really.
category. I mean the first class folks who still need to get on before, like they could be in row four, but they still need to be right up front to get on first.
I'm gonna defend these people. I'm gonna defend these people
All
for
right.
one
Ooh,
for one for
controversy.
It has to do with the baggage that you brought up, because these like plebes that have to sit in like row 35 and beyond, they will put their bag in first class and take up all that space.
Okay, yeah.
And
Well,
that's the one sort of caveat there.
oh, only if you've got one of the hub. Fair, I appreciate that. But if you're at a hub where you've got, if you fly United, for example, I'm not endorsing United, but if you fly United
Mm-hmm.
and 3/4 of the plane are 1K and global service members, I completely agree with you, because then you'll have no space whatsoever.
Yeah,
But if you're not at a regional hub, you're probably going to be in good shape to
you're
get
gonna
your
be
bag
fine.
in. Yeah.
And like a pro tip, if you're on the back of the plane, put your bag up front. It's so much easier getting off the plane.
Oh my God, yeah. Isn't it? Right? Like, I always think, like, who doesn't do that, right? Like, if you know you're in 26D, just stick it right up by the front, because you got to walk past there anyway to get off.
Europe does it right, where like you board and egress from both the front and
Right,
the
and the
back.
back. Yes.
It's so much easier.
What's wrong with the people that are getting there early? It's just like they're demonstrating their conscientiousness, right? And like, does it even pay off to act conscientiously?
Cole's leading us into the next actual article here.
Well,
Doug.
I mean, do I? Sure. I mean, I wouldn't arrive to a movie late, to your point, but that doesn't mean I want to sit there and watch 82 versions of the same previews before the movie begins, right? I want
Were,
to balance.
were you a Barbie or Oppenheimer guy, Doug?
Oh, Oppenheimer.
Oh, interesting.
Me too.
Yeah, I
Interesting.
like Barbie, but Oppenheimer still was a little better for me.
Well, I think we all kind of like conscientiousness at some level. Trait and state conscientiousness positively impacts many life outcomes. So you're talking about your health, job performance, this sort of thing. But it may be effortful in going against like typical levels of conscientiousness. Like sometimes you need to be more conscientious, like dealing with data, this sort of thing. So this study examines how fluctuations in state consciousness relate to emotional exhaustion, resource depletion, and negative affect. And the study consists of 2 studies using ESM methodology. Really cool. So they essentially ping people throughout the day and see how they're doing consciously, and their all these other outcomes. And what they found is high conscientiousness relates to lower emotional exhaustion, resource depletion, and negative affect concurrently. So in the same time you're being conscientious, you have these sort of positive outpacks. The lagged effects are somewhat weaker. So an hour later, which you would expect, they wouldn't be exactly related. But overall, higher conscientiousness, even when counter habitual, has positive impact. So the more you sort of practice this sort of stuff and, raise your levels, the better outcomes you have, at least these 3 outcomes.
Yeah. Fake it till you make it, kids.
Yeah.
The research says so.
100%. If there's one life lesson that I have learned that I've taken with me, is the fact that, you know what? It's really a matter of being able to realize that you're going to be uncomfortable a lot. So get comfortable being uncomfortable. And knowing how to thrive and survive in those types of environments, tremendously powerful. Tremendously powerful. That was a big one for me. And conscientiousness to me is a part of that, right? Like you have to be buttoned up. I started my career at GE, got my ass kicked by Jack when he was still around. He was still walking around, and believe it or not, in 1999. And, he had some choice words for me, and they were fair because I didn't know the right answers. So if you're not buttoned up, you better plan to be, because the next time it's only going to get worse. And as we grow as leaders, as we challenge ourselves, as we challenge our teams, and people want great things, you've got to have everything there, and you're going to get better outcomes. Test and learns, right? People are always afraid, oh my God, what if I fail? You know what you're also going to do? You're going to learn. People forget that aspect, right?
Absolutely.
Now, I'm not doing the whole Google X, like, celebrate every failure. Let's have a big party, right? Like, and that may be cool, right? But I am, if you are Google X, I'm not here to do anything about them. But to that end, what matters is everything you try, and as long as you're really focused on doing the best you can, being focused, being conscientious, being aware, being present, being inclusive, all of those things, right? Being ethical, certainly, those really matter. And I have to believe drive better outcomes.
When I just got my directionally correct bingo because we got a Jack Welch story, so I got a straight line on there. Finally got that one crossed off. So well done.
Well, little known fact: if you ever read Jack straight from the gut, there's a chapter that talks about his heart attack, and his heart attack,
Jack.
heart attack, Jack. Yep.
It's
The chief
caused by me.
that would have been true, probably. Yeah, but unfortunately, I was too young at the time. But his chief medical officer, Saul Millis, was my second great uncle.
Okay.
Who thanks to well, I'll just call it luck. How about that? Luck was helpful in getting me a nice spot in financial.
Preparation meets opportunity. That's what luck is.
Oh, right? I love that. I'm going to use that too.
Yeah. Shout out to Saul. Well done, Saul.
Can I make just like one quick point about like this conscientiousness? Like there's nothing like, as Doug mentioned, like having your house in order. And it's like, because if you have messy work and this sort of stuff, that leads to a lot of worry. And that's where a lot of this sort of like negative affect comes from, because you didn't take care of things and therefore things are left up to chance. There's nothing like being squared away, right?
Yeah. Closure.
Oh my God. Yeah. You know what feels great? Knowing that you've maybe not achieved inbox zero, but by the end of the week, everything you set out to do, everything that you planned to accomplish, every email, every aspect of I needed to communicate this, all that stuff is done. Wow. That's
one of my
week.
favorite Radiohead songs, Everything in Its Right Place. I love it.
Love it.
I strive for no scroll inbox. That's my goal. Always have like no more than say like 8 inbox messages.
That's good.
It's hard to do. It's hard to do.
I was going to say that's not easy, but that's awesome.
Well, let's hit the last nerdery topic here for a second. I think we can do it fast. But Rob Reiner points out about understanding leadership from the point of followers. And so one of my criticisms of leadership research for a long time has been it is neglecting the impact of you can't be a leader without having followers. And we don't really study followers very much. And so he actually points out some research from Singapore Management University about the first really systematic review of followership research. And basically, I mean, not to get into it too deeply, but that followership is important and that there's a lot of different relationships there to leadership. So I wanted to call out Rob for pointing out a really understudied and important point here, and these researchers from SMU. So I don't know. What do you guys think about, is followership important, and how have you seen this in your own personal lives?
Is the question like, is followership a skill, or?
No, I think it's more of like, how do you cultivate followership if you are a leader? Because definitionally, I don't think you can be a leader without having followers.
You can't lead nobody.
Yeah, you can't lead nobody. Otherwise, like you're just a lone crazy person, right?
Yeah. I mean, like a lot of organizations talk about like everyone's a leader here and this sort of thing, and like I think that is an aspect. People can be a thought leader and like these sort of these like slice and dice sort of definitions. But if you're gonna be like a true like people manager and leading people, then you got to rally the troops behind you, right?
Absolutely. I mean, you're a leader, Doug. What do you think about this?
Yeah, so, I think it's about how you as a person are, and do you have traits that people are likely to see value in that create that followership mechanism, right? So, are you somebody who has a sense of, I have an idea, but I want to make sure people feel like they're part of that journey, right? Like, do you guys think this is something we should go after, right? I'm going to throw it out there. And you're not being super decisive by saying this is the only way we're doing it. This is not a dictatorship, right? But you want to establish a leadership presence, and you also want to create people who want to go along a journey with you because
Yeah.
you're thinking strategically. You're thinking about big, bold ideas. And you know what? If you don't take a couple of roof shots, let alone a moon shot, then are you really somebody who's going to want to be followed by others?
You got to inspire for sure. Well, Scott, what are you thinking?
Yeah, well, I mean, like Doug's right. This is not a cheerocracy, right? I mean, we need to have like some sort of like hands on the wheel and this sort of thing. But I also think like leadership is a skill, and like any skill, it needs to be practiced. Like Doug, you brought up some sort of things like Stodgill brought up, like 1945, like the natural born leader. And to a lot of people, just like drums, it comes natural to some people, but you still got to work at it. You still got to read, you still got to practice, you still got to do these sort of things to make yourself even better. I think we don't talk about that nearly enough.
When I think like to your points, Doug, the thing that I react to is one of the things that leadership researchers really struggle with is that there's no one version of what it means, like those skills and traits that you need to build to be a good leader. And the reality is there's many different kinds of leaders for many different kinds of followers. And I think that's why it's so important to study not just leadership, leader member exchange, but also the concept of followership and why that's important. So
you're talking about like situational leadership, like
not even necessarily that. I think that certain traits of leaders are work for certain types of followers. Certain traits of leaders work for other types of followers. It's not just the situation. It could even be trait-based leadership. It's just there's different types of traits that inspire different types of people. I mean, let's use the whiplash example earlier. Dude's a psychopath, but clearly some of the people follow him. And
Love
other
him.
leaders, might be much more positive and people would follow them too.
It's funny you mentioned that. I'm going to give you, if you have a second bingo spot for GE, here you go. Right? So
Yeah.
I learned very early on at GE that you keep a notebook, and you keep this notebook, and I still have it. It's in my bag over there. And it has now a couple of pages in it, but one page that's devoted to the manager's name and what are some great things that this manager did. And then you have a different page that's about what are things you would never, ever, ever emulate, would never, ever, ever do from that same manager.
Did you write all this in the airport with that person?
Yeah, while you're traveling, I like it.
That, you know what, while sitting next to them.
Yes.
That would have been awesome.
Sorry to interrupt your story.
No, you know what? I'm just thinking how cool that would have been.
Yeah.
Because
Really?
I'm thinking
Use the four-wheel bag, I see. That's
yeah,
a choice.
I'm thinking about somebody who on a Thursday would be like, I need you to be in India for Monday morning. And that was
Damn.
not a trait that I ever wanted to emulate
Yeah.
as an example, right? But
that time change is rough.
yeah, I mean, time change, but like life. Like, what if you had plans with your family that weekend, or you were going to see a concert, or play a game of golf,
Oh,
whatever,
yeah.
right? Like, I guess I'm not doing that now.
Well, this is what like a lot of like call center workers they have to deal with. They don't know their schedule more than a week in advance. It's a really, really rough life.
Yeah, it's not right. It shouldn't be that way.
Exactly. But I also appreciate the fact that everyone wants to know what they're playing for. And as leaders, they set that example. So being able to recognize that these are the kind of people I want to work for and lead and be a part of, and from that same followership standpoint, like, you know what, this is not how I'm going to jive well. This is not the right. I think the aspect that you brought, Cole, around these like sectionalized or however it's best phrased is so important, because people are different. Everybody has a diverse standpoint on how they're best capable of delivering value and growing in their career, or perhaps they don't want to grow. Perhaps they want to stay where they are, but they want to have a great work environment. And I think that's so important as a follower as well.
Well, you're clearly a really great leader, Doug, and you've been a fantastic guest on the podcast today. Thank you so much for joining us. But before I give you the final word, Scott, any parting words for Doug?
Doug, thanks so much for coming on. Hang in there, man. Things will work out eventually.
I'll see you in India. Maybe we'll see Jack Welch there. Who knows?
We could. It would be kind of strange if we do. But yeah, I could see in India. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'll have Jack Welch stories for you. Yeah. That's good.
Doug, you've been fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us today. And you've been listening to Directionally Correct, People Analytics podcast with Cole and Scott and Doug Shagam. Thanks, Doug.
Thank you both, Cole, Scott. Pleasure. Thanks so much for having me, and what a privilege it's been.
All opinions are our own and do not reflect those of any other organization. You've been listening to Directionally Correct, a People Analytics podcast with Cole and Scott.